How's everyone doing? Today I want to talk about we're going to talk about spring cleaning, and I hate spring cleaning because traditionally it involves like dusting and getting into all these like parts of your house that kind of you don't really notice that often, and I hate dusting. I really really hate dusting. So I was thinking about like when I spring clean, I use it as a time to also, I don't know if be meditative is the right word, but I really kind of like look at all the things I'm like, say, lifting up and cleaning like all my like tchotchkes and picture frames and things like that. And I really look at them and I think about like what was going on in the photo. I think about some times in the past and what I really want for the future too. Like I just kind of I use it as a reflective time, and that makes it way more palatable, right? And then I think about how good it's going to feel when it's done. But anyway, um, that was kind of the inspiration for this, and just thinking this time of renewal, all the things that we can do to kind of like clean out the cobwebs of our mind. And, we get really stuck in these cycles and these thought patterns that aren't serving us. So I thought it would be fun to come on and talk about spring cleaning for your dating mindset, essentially. So, happy Thursday, everyone. Thanks for joining and prioritizing yourself this way. Um, Welcome. And if you're new here, I'm Caroline. I'm a former white glove matchmaker, turned certified NLP and life coach, and I specialize in dating burnout because dating burnout is what makes people want to give up, right? It's that moment where you're like, you feel like you can't go on and you've been kind of pushing through because you still have this dream and this plan. So if I can get in there and help you at that time, if anything I say kind of helps you at that time to reset and refresh and recharge your dating battery, then that's what I want to be doing, because you're allowed to want the things you want. You're allowed to have the dreams you dream about. And you're allowed to also take a break and reflect and reset how you're approaching them and how you're going about achieving them. So, I've worked with hundreds and hundreds of daters, both as a matchmaker and as a dating coach. And I've seen firsthand that if you have the right mindset and the tools to pull you out of discouragement before it becomes burnout and just really spirals, it can help keeping you moving towards your goals. So, um, and a little about me is like, I don't believe that your love goal means meeting your soulmate. I believe that you are looking for the ideal relationship for who you truly authentically are and your life goals, right? And the right dynamic for your life goals. So, my work is about empowerment so you can shift your perspective and focus on what you can control, on what you can control, um, and not the things that are outside of that, right? And you can build a love life that aligns with your vision and helps keep out the negativity and noise that can really drag you down. So, I also want to acknowledge that we're living in some pretty heavy times right now, and it's really, really easy. I get this question all the time: what's the point? Does this even matter? Does dating even matter? But my perspective is that pursuing the life you want, even in difficult times, because you only have this one life, is an act of resilience. And you're allowed to seek joy. And even when things are uncertain. And in fact, that joy is what allows you to weather the storms of life. So, wherever you find that joy. So, if you're ready to stop feeling stuck, if you want to take back control and create real change in your life, you're in the right place. So, let's do this together. And, I didn't do a live last week because I was feeling real burnout symptoms. And because I've been through it so many times in so many aspects of my life, I'm very passionate about interceding as soon as I feel that way and getting in front of it and turning the ship. And so last week I was like, I had stuff planned out to come and do a live session, and everything in my body was screaming like, no. So I didn't. So I did things instead to refresh myself and to feel better. And then I woke up on Monday and I just felt like a completely different person. I felt like that cycle, that thing had been slowly dragging me down for a couple weeks, and I just felt like a different person. And um, no one ever taught me how to get over burnout. I had to study it and figure it out myself and do a lot of trial and error. But that's why it's so important to me, because I feel like when you're describing it to people, they're like, oh, it's just depression, or you're just down, or you're just feeling discouraged. And it's like, it can really lead to a lot of behaviors and thought patterns that get in the way of your goals. And so it's really, really important to like get in front of that, have your toolkit ready, know the early signs so you can step in and change the course before it gets so dark that you like can't claw your way out. So today we're going to talk about spring cleaning. We're going to talk about spring cleaning our mindset, beliefs, influences, fear, anything else keeping you from building the love you dream of and deserve. So, if you're feeling exhausted by dating and like every new match feels like a repeat of the last, or you just don't have the energy to care anymore, you're not alone, because dating burnout is really real. I know this for a fact. And if you've been swiping, ghosting, let down enough times, or had a talking stage and never progress, you start to believe the worst and that dating just isn't going to work for you, and you start to think about giving up. So there's a lot of ways that dating burnout shows up, and some, not all, would be emotional exhaustion. So if anyone feels emotional exhaustion, please let me know in the chats, um, because it's I feel like everyone feels emotionally exhausted by for some reason right now by something. So if you dread like opening dating ads, responding to messages, or going out where you might meet new people, that's exhaustion, right? And if the idea of just getting to know a new person makes you feel tired, you're exhausted. Um, if you're feeling frustration and cynicism. So I talk a lot about cynicism, because it is your worst enemy in life. And I say this as very much a recovering cynic. Like, I work on it actively now. It is your worst enemy of life. So you start assuming that like no one is serious, or that love just isn't in the cards for you, and you approach all interactions looking for problems or red flags. Another sign would be avoidance. So if you tell yourself you're too busy, but deep down you're really just tired of this cycle, right? If you don't do anything in your day to day that is different, that increases your chances of meeting someone you might actually be interested in, you're avoiding it, right? So last, and like I said, not exhaustively, is that you lower your standards. If you start settling for something that's good enough, or staying in uninspiring situations because it feels easier, um, I've totally done this. I've done this. You convince yourself that what you want or what you crave or dream about is not realistic at all, and that the absence of a serious problem or serious conflict is the same as the presence of real compatibility or alignment. So, what if I told you, like, it doesn't have to be this way? You don't have to go about this way. Dating burnout happens when we treat finding love like a job, but you don't earn connections the way you earn money at a job, right? You experience your connections. So there is a real cost to staying stuck. All right. If Here's what happens if you don't change, and spring is the perfect time to make this change, right? Most people think dating burnout will pass on its own. But if you don't change anything, nothing changes for you. Doing the same thing over and over won't change how you feel about it, and pushing through regardless will not bring you any desirable results. In 6 months, you'll still be frustrated, still second guessing yourself, and probably feeling less hopeful than you do today. And if you feel really, really down now, imagine like if it just gets worse. In a year, you might avoid dating entirely and just convince yourself it's absolutely not worth it. You might be one of those people penning those posts on social media declaring that they're not dating anymore, even though you feel like you still have a lot of love to give and you always dreamed of a life with a partner. Much worse, long term, you risk settling for far less than you deserve, not out of love, but out of just exhaustion. So over time, that leads to feeling lonely, even though you're not physically alone. Has anyone ever felt lonely even though you weren't alone? Please let me know in the chat. Say me, because I know I've definitely been there. Um, and it sucks to feel lonely when you're not actually alone. And there's a lot of like common advice that doesn't actually work or have enough meaning for you to execute on. So, one would be just like forcing yourself to push through. More dates does not change a burned out mindset, right? Showing up when you don't want to be there means you're definitely not showing up as your best self. And also, you're not going to recognize someone who might be suitable for you because you have like these, I call them your burnout goggles, right? You're just kind of like, ugh. And they might be the right person for you. You wouldn't even know because you're so burned out. The other thing is just following bad advice, right? Just put yourself out there is not an actual strategy. It's as vague as people who just say, like, just be yourself. Because simply wasting your time going places just because you think some single people might be there is not a long term plan. And it's no likelier to bring you to your ideal partner than, for example, just going to pick up groceries. Another thing that feels like good advice but isn't super helpful is taking a break without actual reflection. So if you just take time off, you just go like, I'm not dating right now, but nothing else changes. That on its own, it doesn't help you reset your approach. So if you change nothing about what you're looking for, how you search, how you feel about yourself or your life, when you start dating again, everything will just be the same. Um, when you think about like our brains really want that kind of like the new changes, they want novelty. And if you feel like you're just in a loop of the same experiences over and over, like you have to change the pattern, right? Like you have to change the pattern because that's not how dating should feel. You should feel like, oh, I get to meet somebody new. Let's see. Let's see how this goes, instead of like, oh, what fresh hell is this bringing? Which I think a lot of people, I know a lot of people go on dates with that attitude. So we're going to talk about a fresh approach to dating and how you're going to do it. If spring is about renewal, let's talk about how you can use spring to refresh your approach to dating and actually start feeling some hope again. So, number one, taking a step back to gain clarity. Now, taking a dating detox with without reflection is not what we want to do, but we want to say no apps, no swiping, no worrying. Focus only on things that bring you joy and bring you back to yourself, right? You want to create that stronger foundation around your identity, what your life looks like, how you feel emotionally supported, how you feel loved, and focus on, hobbies, activities, seeing friends or family, volunteering, self care. You spend your time on an active reset, not merely just abstaining from something, right? So, this is a time to think like, what have I been doing that isn't working? And what can I replace it with? Because burnout doesn't just come from dating on itself, it's dating in ways that don't actually serve you, right? Then you're going to reframe your mindset. So you're going to shift from finding the one instead to having meaningful experiences. So instead, you're going to set a non relationship goal. and think, I want to enjoy meeting new people instead of I need to find my person, right? If you put too much pressure on meeting a new person, it sets you up for disappointment. When you meet a new person for dating or for friendship, you just need to ask yourself, have I learned enough to know if I want to continue to invest further in this connection? Or do I need to know more to make that decision, right? You're getting to know someone to determine if you want to progress the relationship, and that's it. Your only goal is getting enough information to make the next decision. Okay? So think about it this way. How many times have you had a good interaction with someone and you decide like let's be friends, and you want to hang out with them, you have like enough in common, or they seem like nice and receptive, and you want to be friends. And as you start getting to know them, you start to realize you have some like misalignments in how you look at the world, or your values, or how you spend your time, or what your priorities are. And as you start to get to know them more, you realize like you kind of don't want to be friends. And really, what should have come first was let me get to know this person first to decide if I want to be friends with them. And it's totally okay to get to know someone and then realize like I actually, I really enjoy getting to know you. I don't think we're compatible. That's perfectly fine. That's so perfectly fine to do. So, if you think about it that way, that's all you're trying to do. Get to know enough information to decide, do I need to know more, or can I make a decision about what I want for my next steps right now? Um, and then you're going to change up your dating habits. So instead of defaulting to the same things you've been doing, right? So if you're always like on an app, and I could go on and on about apps. In fact, I probably should do a whole other session about apps. Try in person social events and activities, or hobby based meetups, because you're more likely then to run into someone who's into what you're into, right? Or who's more aligned with the things that you care about. But in fact, if you're an app user, this should always only be a side auxiliary method of meeting someone, not the main way you meet people. It really erodes how you look at the world, how you look at other people and yourself, and how you feel about your future when an app is the main way you're meeting new people. And the other thing is, everyone's experienced this. When you're just looking at someone across a screen, it's hard to remember that they are a person. And then that's how people end up treating people really badly on apps, is because they're not treating them like they're actual people who have their own lives and desires and wants and needs. They're like, this is a vehicle to get my needs met, and not how can I create a meaningful connection with this person, right? So there are also, like I said, a lot of ways to get better results out of dating apps, which is something I can totally help you with if we work together. And maybe I'll do another session on like dating app best practices. If you want that, like let me know in the chat or comment or DM me and tell me that that's something that you're interested in, because that's I have a lot to say about dating apps. And they can listen. I met my partner while I was a matchmaker on a dating app on Hinge, and he's the love of my life. So you can do it. It can happen. It just, there are ways to kind of make sure you're presenting yourself a certain way, and then there are actual like usage techniques to prevent you from getting diminishing returns, because that happens. Like people get diminishing returns from your apps. And if you've had it happen, you know what I mean. Um so you want to focus on like making dating fun again. So instead of asking like where do I find someone, you want to ask how do I enjoy myself and how I'm spending my time while I meet new people who I have things in common with and expand my network. This is about network expansion. This is about just meeting more people, right? You never know who someone knows. So, getting out there and meeting new people not only helps you, maybe someone fixes you up, right? but it also just helps you fill your emotional cup and feel more supported in the world. And the more having ties to your community, having ties socially is one of the main ways you combat cynicism. So, um, and then step four is probably fairly obvious coming from me, but it's, to get like actual expert guidance. So instead of trial and error, you get structured support because your other single friends who haven't dated or friends who haven't dated in a long time and don't understand the current dating, I say landscape, but it's hellscape, don't have the answers. Misery loves company. So if you're looking for educated support, people who don't have what you want are not the people you go to for advice. And that's true for everything in life, right? You don't go to advice from people who don't have or haven't done the thing you want. So if you're tired and going in circles, like I'm offering, your first session is free. You just book the call. Link is in my bio. And then I'll give you the conversation starters guide so you can start actually having conversations that feel sort of fresh and new and exciting. I put together a ton of things you can ask someone to sort of stand out from the crowd when you're in the talking phase, especially. Um, but let's close this out because it's 11:20, and I like to keep these to maximum 30 whenever possible. But you can always comment and ask questions, and I'll stop to answer questions. So to recap, now is a really good time to take a step back and assess if your approach to dating is serving your goals and who you really are, so you can renew your mindset. And at the same time that like nature is in this growth period, right? We're just going to sink along. We're growing, we're emerging new. Let's grow and emerge new. So you can comment spring cleaning or DM me to schedule a free session with me, which is time you get to use on whatever you want. And if we're not a fit, you'll still get value from the call. When you do schedule the call, I'll also send you a free guide of engaging, interesting, and fun conversation starters. They'll set you apart from the crowd, and I promise you don't want to miss the guide. I had been doing 15-minute calls, but they kept taking longer. Like we kept really getting into the meat of the matter right away. So the first calls are 45 minutes now. So it's essentially like your first session. And I've also been creating more bespoke programs for people, but the only way to know if we're a match is to book the call. And if I can't help you, I will let you know. If this is not my wheelhouse, that totally happens. And sometimes I just listen. I have had people call me about things that are not exactly my wheelhouse, but we talk about it. They cry and they just feel heard and better, and that's fine. I love that. Okay. So, the other thing I wanted to let you know is I'm doing a webinar in a few weeks. So it'll be one day. The last one I did was 2 days. I'm just going to do this in one day, and it'll be probably under 2 hours. So you're not like, oh, I'm going to start at 10 a.m. and then at some point at 1 p.m. we're still on. Like, I'm not going to do that to you. It's going to be concise. And we're going to work through a bunch of sections in the Six Steps Path program. So if you've been putting off scheduling or diving into the e-course, you will get a lot out of this free session. And registration will first be announced in the newsletter, so make sure you subscribe. I'll drop it in the comments on this video. And if you're on TikTok, just go to the link in my bio to subscribe to the newsletter. It comes out on Friday, so you're going to get it tomorrow. And then I just want you to congratulate yourself again for putting yourself first today. If you're in the Facebook group, remember that live sessions are going to become temporary soon, and they'll only be available for, I think, 30 days after posting. So if you've been meaning to go back and get caught up, like, don't wait, because they're going to start deleting all my old videos. Also, I put up a new quiz. It's on my website. It's what's your dating style, and then you get a guide back with like some of your strengths and challenges based on your answers, and then some advice about like next steps. So if you want to take the quiz, I would love it, and I would love feedback on it. It's on my website. It's like right at the top, and I'll put it in the newsletter tomorrow as well. So I've really, a quiz has been something I've been wanting to work on for a long time, so I finally got it done. But just remember, like, you don't have to stay stuck. You don't have to keep feeling exhausted by dating. Spring is a time of renewal. So just use it to refresh your dating mindset. Your next steps: book a free call. This is me. You're going to get this is me. We're just going to talk. We're just going to talk. I'm going to listen to what you have going on, and we're just going to talk. That's it. And get my free conversation starters guide when you do that. And then even if you don't book a call, just like commit to one small shift today in your outlook. Like, what are you thinking of? Do you have any ideas? Like, just let me know. Let me know in the comments. Let me know what you're thinking about for a fresh start. It's possible. You just have to take the next step, right? Everything is just about what is your next step. So I hope you have an awesome rest of your week. Thanks for joining. Thanks for prioritizing yourself this way. And have a good rest of your week and weekend. Subscribe to the newsletter. Really, I put so much stuff in there that I really don't put anywhere else. And I will see you next week. I'm going to put the links here on Facebook in the comments, okay? All right. Thanks for joining. Bye.